Welcome back to the Open Wheel Offline League Season 5, Round 14, here at Pocono Raceway for the second race of the Triple Crown. Qualifying just underway, the 53 of Tinkle McStinkle, first car out. You can see the qualifying order on the left of your screen, 27 cars, as he will take the green flag now. Decent sized lift going into turn 1, gonna exit at about 210 miles per hour, now going down the Long Pond straightaway and towards the tunnel turn in turn 2, the fastest turn on the track. Best qualifying for this team, 12th at the Indy 300. Another Triple Crown race on the schedule as first lap will come in, and it will be a 2:24.517. Into turn 2. Now into the flat, turn 3. Let's see what lap 2 has. Is it quicker? It is quicker. It will be improved to a 225.773. So over a mile per hour gain. So his time will be a 225.145. Not too bad to start off. Next up is Team Canada Dry's Dawa Tenzin. First time going to Pocono for this team. '26th in the regular season points. Actually, 27th, as Hulkenberg is not out here. And he's behind him in points, so he's actually 27th. As his first lap will come in. To 24.893. That's better than McStinkle's first lap. But right now tracking second. Gonna need more speed on lap 2. A little wiggle in turn 3. Gonna be exiting just under 220 miles per hour. And to the line, gonna be a pretty decent improvement. To 26.512. So that will take him to the top with an average of 225.703. Up next, partial schedule on the season. But so far, it's looked pretty good for the number 7 of Carlos Huertas. His team, very good on the ovals, did well at Pocono last season. Been on a nice top 10 streak as of lately. As let's see what he has here. 227.353. So by far the fastest at this point. Coming off turn 3 and to the line it will be better. 228.775. That is a big improvement. That will be an average of 228.064. That is a pretty high bar set already in the session. Up next is the 77 of Stingray Rob, coming off a difficult weekend at New Hampshire. The team continues to struggle. Let's see what he has on the first lap. It will be 225.683. The Magenta Tree is usually more of an oval team than a road course team. Right now tracking to third with 225.683. Coming out of the turn, and it will be just a tick quicker, 225.694. Which is going to put his average at a 225.689, which will be in third place. Up next is his teammate, the 00 of Glubler Lore. Also having a difficult season, had a difficult race at New Hampshire. Only 2 top 10s for the team this season, 1 for each driver. A 2nd for Stingray at Michigan, and a 7th for Glubler at Motegi. That was nearly 10 races ago. Coming to the line. Not going to be the greatest first lap. 224.098, that is pretty off. Right now tracking to last, unfortunately, looking for more pace on lap 2. Slides a lot on the exit of the turns. Just very twitchy. Second lap will be better, but I don't think it's going to be good enough. 225.485. Fortunately, that will leave him in 5th and last for now. With an average of 224.792. Up next is the number 92 of Lawless Allen here at Pocono for the first time. Looking to get into the leader circle. This car didn't make the leader circle last season with Jacob Abel. A lot of difficulties on the ovals in particular. Off turn 3. Let's see where it's at. And it's pretty solid, 227.175. That's only 0.2 off of Huertas's first lap, but he had a big improvement on lap 2. But right now tracking to second. Through turn 3 and coming to the line. It's gonna be better, but not good enough to go to first. 227.480. Fairly consistent across his 2 laps for an average of 227.328, which will put him in second. Up next, the other car for Eventide Racing. It is the 37 of Miles Rowe. Qualified last at New Hampshire in his new paint colors. Looking for a little bit better here. Did well at Pocono last season. First lap will be a 225.502. Not too bad for a first lap. Right now, that is currently putting him in 5th out of 7th. But a mile per hour quicker than his teammate on the first lap. Into turn 3. Now coming to the line. 225.955 is the second lap. For an average of 225.729, which will put him up in the third as of now. Just outside the leader's circle. Really needs that $1 million bonus, the team does. And that's going to help. Up next, the guy that he's trying to battle closest to right now is the 04 of David Malukas. Got a podium here last season. Dark horse candidate to get the win. But to win, first you need to qualify. as first lap will be 2:26.889, not too bad, but could be looking for a bit more pace here. Right now tracking to third. Lap 2 is actually going to be slower. First car to go slower on the second lap, 2:26.826. Pretty consistent though. Not a huge drop, but the average 2:26.858. And that will put him in third. So probably looking for a little bit better there. Up next is his teammate, the number 75 of Devlin DeFrancesco. Second time racing here at Pocono. Let's see what he has into turn 1. Into turn 3 and then coming to the line here. See what he has. Gonna be slower than his teammate Malukas, 2:25.898, so about a mile per hour slower. Right now tracking to fourth. Let's see what he has coming into turn 3. It's 2:42. Back onto the front stretch. It's going to be a pretty solid improvement on lap 2. 2:26.837, just a bit slower. Actually quicker than Malukas's second lap. For an average of 2:26.368. Which will put him in fourth behind his teammate. Not too bad for Masters of Motors. Up next is the final Ford car, the number 18 of Robbie Lohr. In what I believe to be his fourth Pocono 250, all of which have been on different teams. Went from Lohr Sport to Knox Racing, Team Eggs, and now at 18 Aggressive Bees. Into turn 3. And at the line, gonna be 2:27.336. Not too bad, currently tracking to second. Not too far off Huertez's first lap, but gonna need more speed on lap 2. Coming off turn 3. and it's going to be a little bit quicker, 2:27.572. That'll put his average at a 2:27.454, which will put him in second behind Huertas and ahead of Allen. Up next is his old team, the 76 of Ethan Martz, and his third Pocono 250. Also been on a different team every single time. First lap is 2:26.609, so a little bit slower than his teammate. Allen has not outqualified Martz many times this season. Right now tracking to 5th. In between the two Masters of Motors cars, let's see what lap 2 has. Coming off the final turn. It's a solid jump, 2:27.347. Average of 2:26.978. It's going to put him in 4th, just one spot lower than his teammate. So was probably looking for a little bit better. Just shy of the 2:27 mark. Up next is his old teammate, the 54 of Mahavir Raghunathan. Right now his teammate Dawa Tenzin, 8th out of 11. Go see if he can outdo that. Coming off the final turn to the line. Gonna be a 2:26.683. So about on pace with Martz's first lap, just a little bit better. Tracking to 6th. Right in the middle of the pack. Better than teammate Tenzin. As he's actually going to go a good bit slower on lap 2. 2:26.540, so going to drop in time down to a 2:26.612. Still going to finish in 5th, right in between the two Masters of Motors cars. But not quite how he would have liked. Up next is the number 99 of Brennan Hubbard. He's won Triple Crown races before. He was pretty close at Indy. Finished in the top 5. Hasn't had a good go of it the last few weeks. The European leg outside of Spa was pretty rough for the team. New Hampshire wasn't anything to write home about, especially when the rest of his team were in the top 5. So very much been the 4th place driver on the team, trying to get back into the picture a little bit more, coming off turn 4. And it's a pretty solid first lap, 2:27.618. That is the quickest first lap that we've seen already. That is tracking him to second. Just needs to find about, gonna need to find about a mile per hour quicker. Huertas set a high bar on the second lap. It's gonna be tough to beat. Looking for a mid 228 on this lap. Off turn 3. And it's only going to be a little bit quicker, 227.727. Not a bad run, but not going to be a pole, 227.673. So half the field has gone. We're at the midway point. We got 3 Banshees of Little Miami cars in a row. And up next is the 29 of Benjamin Peterson. Had a good run at Pocono last season. See what he's got here. Right now his teammate Carlos Huertas at the top of the times table. First lap is a 226.307. Not going to be as good as he would have liked. That's going to currently put him down in 9th, where he's tracking, which is far below his teammate Huertas, looking for a lot more speed on this second lap. Didn't hit 240 entering turn 3. This doesn't look like a very impressive run. Does go quicker. We'll go to a 226.963. That will put him in 7th, right behind Malukas, but probably was looking for a little bit more there. Up next is V47 of Lindsey Brewer. So right now, her team is qualified 1st and 7th, so pretty big difference there from front of the pack to middle of the pack. Has also done well at Pocono before. Did well last season. Top 5. Pretty much up there for the whole race. Not quite battling for the win, but inside the top 5. Going into turn 3. First lap, 2:27.808. That is the quickest lap that we have seen, at least for quickest first lap. Gonna need to be about a 2:28 point, I'd say 3 to beat her teammate. But right now, looking at the top of the sheets, it's 13th in points. Been a pretty solid season for her. Been about where she has done the last few seasons, just still winless. As second lap, is going to be a good bit slower, 2:27.244. That's going to drop her average to a 2:27.526, which will put her in third. It's not too bad, but a little wasted. Up next is the Season 3 Pocono 250 winner, the 87 of Alessio Daletta. Didn't back it up last season. Actually finished in last place with a crash in turn 2. Gonna try and qualify closer to the front to stay out of the chaos of the midfield. It's 12th in points. Been around the top 10 cutoff for most of the season. Little twitch in turn 3. Gavernet back up. And it's going to be a 2:27.393. Not too bad. Quicker than Huertez's first lap, but he's going to need a big second lap to contend. Right now, that is going to put him at 5th with where he's tracking. Gonna need a bit more. Off turn 3 and to the line. And it's going to be a pretty big improvement here. 2:28.566. It's not going to be enough to beat his teammate, but gonna put him on the front row for now. 2:27.980. The second place, not too bad. But still, his rookie teammate, Carlos Huertez, is unbeaten. Up next is the 24 of Chet Jordan. Looking to get back to the front. Was looking at a podium at New Hampshire last week, but late contact with a lapped car threw him out of the podium, threw him out of the lead lap, and threw him out of the top 10 in points. Now sitting in 11th. It's been a rough last few races for Silly Men Racing. Only one win on the season for the team, well below what they were expected with how they're doing in preseason testing and how they've looked. But this first lap for Chet Jordan is going to go to the top 229.329. First lap that we have seen in the 229s, up by 1.3 miles per hour over Huertas. I think the number 7's rule at the top is about to end. This looks like a strong run. Through the tunnel turn into turn 3. Let's see what he has. It's going to be better. 229.815, not able to beat the 230 barrier, but pretty close for an average of 229.572. No one is even close to that so far. So the 24 are going to sit on top. Strong run. Looking to get back to victory lane. Been about a whole season since he has. Maybe try and get himself back into the championship fight. Up next is the 64 of Ryan Preece. Probably should have won last season here. Looked like the car to beat. Had everything going until late race pit stop. Coming off turn number 3 into the line here. It's not going to be too bad on the first lap. But going to need more if he wants to go for the top 228.276. Tracking to second. Ahead of Huertas. His teammates are 7th and 8th, so not too bad for them. But that's not where Preece expects to qualify. He wants to go for the top. No poles on the season, only 2 podiums. Lap 2, 229.299. Not good enough for the top, but that is going to put him on the front row for now with a 228.788. So Ryan Preece currently on the front row. Up next is the 43 of Dorian Pin. Coming off just her second podium of the season, which put her back in the top 10 in points, had been struggling a lot in the European leg. Into turn 3. Gonna hit the line with a 228.862. Quicker than Priest's first lap. But Priest had a pretty big improvement. Right now sitting in second. Not quite challenging for the 24's time yet. Would need to hit into the 230s to have a shot at pole. It's going to be unlikely, but not out of the question. To the line. Checkered flag. 229.492. That's pretty good, but not going to be enough. But going to be enough to put her on the provisional front row, knocking off Ryan Preece. Up next, the final car for Banshees of Little Miami. Francesco Draconi. Right now, the team sits 4th, 5th, 7th, and 12th. Coney won at Michigan early in the season. Had a solid run at Indy. Didn't qualify too well, but raced well. Got a top 10 out of it. Trying to get into the leaders, well, rookie of the season points lead once again. He's going to come to the line here. First lap is going to be 226.501. That's not going to be good enough to put him near the front. Right now he is tracking to 14th, which is not where he would have want to be. He's going to try to look for more speed on the second lap. Around turn 3 and to the line. And it's actually going to be a bit slower, 226.415. So that's going to put his average at 226.458. Which is going to put him in 14th. In between Raghunathan and DeFrancesco. So not the run that the 49 team would have wanted. It's going to put him deep in the field to start. Up next, coming off the top 5, is the number 90 of Guy Gagné. See what he has here. Has been very inconsistent on the ovals to start the season. Some have gone really well, some have gone really bad. New Hampshire was a top 5. Indy was a wreck. Motegi just had no pace. And Michigan was a top 5. Let's see what he has here. First lap. Oh, 226.176. That is not ideal. That is tracking him to 16th, which is far below what this team expects. Teammate Brennan Hubbard up in 6th. Didn't do too well at Pocono last season. He's going to go quicker on the second lap, 227.261. That's a bit better. But an average of 226.719, which will put him in 12th. So a decent improvement on the second lap, going to help out there. Still deeper than what he would have liked. Six cars remain. Up next is his teammate Connor Zilich coming off a podium at New Hampshire. No wins, no poles on the season. Viking Racing only has one pole, came at Indy under part-time driver Roman Grosjean on Zilich. Snubbed, started second, crashed early on. But we know he has speed on the ovals. See if he can show it. Off turn 3 into the line, and it's a huge first lap. 229.615. That is tracking to first on just the first lap. Gonna have to see what the second lap has. Right now, looking good for the number 9. Not out of championship fight yet. And a big day here could put him back in. Finished second at Pocono last season. Trying to go for a win this time, as he will go better. 230.020, first car in the 230s. And that is a huge lap, a huge run. 229.818 is the average, which will put him on top. Five cars remain to try to unseat the number 9. We're going to have to see how well they can do with that. As up next, last race winner, the 14 of Justin Allgaier. Is really showing that ovals might be his specialty. And he has just been getting better and better. He's been doing very well recently. Trying to also break away with the rookie of the season standings. But championship contention is not far out of his grasp. Let's see what he's got here. First lap is a 2:29.434. This is in the hunt. Right now tracking to third. But if he can get a big second lap, that could put him on top. Has one pole, and it came last week at New Hampshire. Can he make it back to back through turn 3? And it's going to go quicker. 2:29.909, not enough to get into the 2:30s and not enough for pole, but a strong run with an average of 2:29.672, exactly 1/10 of a mile per hour quicker than Chet Jordan. That'll put him in second. Four cars remain. Up next is the 33 of Marcus Armstrong, who also could have won last season. Been on a bad streak of misfortune and mistakes recently. Right now, teammate Chet Jordan sits in third. We know Armstrong is quick on the ovals. Does he have another pole run in him today? Through turn 3. And the first lap, 2:29.148. A good first lap, but he's going to need a lot more. With that, he'd need almost a 2:31 to try to get pole, and I just don't think that's realistic right now. He is tracking to fifth, just a little bit slower than Dorian Pinn. Let's see what lap 2 has. It's going to be an improvement. 2:29.691. That's a pretty good second lap, but it is not going to be a pole run, and will actually be slower than Chet Jordan's run. Jordan hasn't outqualified Armstrong much, especially on the ovals, but he will today. Fourth for Marcus Armstrong. Three cars left. Up next is the number 10 of Louis Foster. Right now his teammates sit second and fifth. So the team looks quick here once again. Louis Foster oval qualifying has not been his strength. Michigan and New Hampshire went all right, with third and seventh place qualifyings, but Indy deep in the field, I believe row 7, and then Motegi, he started back in like 24th, 25th. Let's see what he has today. First lap is all right, but gonna be a lot lower than what he would have wanted. 227.020. That is right now only good enough for 13th. So gonna be looking for a lot of speed here. Into turn 3. Doesn't drop below 220 exiting the turn. Second lap gonna be a good bit quicker, 227.785. And this will be 227.403 average, which will put him in 12th, right behind Robbie Lohr, and just ahead of Lawless Allen. So a disappointing effort from the 10 team. Qualifying not been a strength on the ovals for this team. Up next is the number 19 of Nolan Siegel, who continues to close in on that championship gap. About 60 points out with a 4th place finish at New Hampshire. What the team needed. Right now his teammate Connor Zilich on pole, but then Hubbard down in 9th and Gagne all the way down in 16th, so the team inconsistent. Hopefully that doesn't mean problems for the 19 team. At the line, 227.808, not bad, but he's looking for more here. Right now that is good enough for only 9th. But if he's trying to fight for a championship, you got to do better than that. Got one more lap here, one more turn now. His teammate's still on top by a considerable margin. And at the line, it's going to be quicker. 228.241. We'll put the average at a 228.025, which is just a bit slower than Huertas's average. So he will be going to 8th. Not exactly what he would have wanted, not too bad, but yeah, could definitely be a lot better. One more car left to run, and it's the one that they've all been chasing. It's the number 1 of Shane Van Gisbergen. Pocono has not been kind to him. DNF in Season 1 and finished outside the top 20 in Season 2. Been rough for him. And New Hampshire was another reminder that the ovals don't go his way usually. Motegi was also not a very good performance. Started deep in the field. Gonna come off turn 3 here. And first lap will be 2:28.502. That doesn't look good enough for pole, so I think Connor Zilic is gonna have his first of the season, unless a miracle happens here for this number 1 team. But right now he's looking at 7th for Van Gisbergen. Into turn 2, and now heading towards 3. Looking for pretty much a miracle to get the pole onto the front stretch, and it is a 2:29.113, which is not good enough, which means Connor Zilic will have his first pole of the season, Viking Racing's second pole of the season. Van Gisbergen will put it in 6th with an average of 2:28.808, just a little bit better than Ryan Preece. So let's quickly review starting grid for tomorrow's race. 4th Pocono 250. So row 1 will be Connor Zilic on his first pole of the season. To his outside, it's the guy that won last week trying to go for rookie of the season. It's Justin Allgaier. Down to row 2 is the Silly Men Racing teammates of Chet Jordan and Marcus Armstrong. And then down to row 3 is Swindlers of the Immortals teammates Dorian Pinn and Shane Van Gisbergen. Row 4 will have Ryan Preece and Carlos Huertas in his best career starting spot. In 8th, row 5, it's going to have Nolan Siegel starting deeper in the field than he would have wanted, and Alessio Deletta to his outside, looking for another Pocono 250 win. Row 6 going to be the 99 of Brennan Hubbard, and to his outside is going to be the 47 of Lindsey Brewer, dark horse candidates to win the race right there. Row 7 is the 18 of Robbie Lohr, and the 10 of Louis Foster starting deeper in the field than he would have wanted, sits 3rd in the championship, and that's not going to help. Down in row 8 is Team Egg's teammates Lawless Allen and Ethan Martz. And then down to row 9, also a disappointing effort for both David Malukas and Guy Gagne. Would have loved to see more from them. Their team owners would have. Row 10 is going to be Benjamin Peterson and Mahavir Raghunathan. Down to row 11, you have Francesco Draconi and Devlin DiFrancesco. Row 12 is Miles Rowe and Dawa Tenzin. Row 13 will be Stingray Rob and Tinkle McStinkle. And then rounding out the field is going to be the 00 of Glubler lore. So an interesting starting grid for tomorrow's race. 100 laps, 250 miles was an exciting one last season. I think has the record for the most lead changes in one race. They're going to try and go for that again, as Zilich will lead us to green, so I hope to see